Well, Merry Christmas. I just wanted to talk to you this time around about foundations, because we're all coming into the new year and we're all coming into a time when we start to want to build our businesses up. We get new dreams, new Year's resolutions and stuff, and we wanted to start thinking about where we're going in the next year. So I wanted to come to you with a thought about foundations and about where you're going next, or how you do your planning in terms of planning out for the next year. One of the key points to remember and to consider is this: if you're building a 100-story building, how big is the foundation you need to do to build a 100-story building? You need to dig down in the ground a long way. You need to go backwards before you can go forwards. In other words, you need to go down into the ground before you can start building the building up. And the amount of technology, the amount of thinking, the amount of engineering involved in building those foundations is significant if you're building a 100-story building. If you're building a 1,000-story building, even more so. It may even cost you 25 to 30% of your entire budget just to build the actual foundations before you need to go up. Now, if you're building a one-bedroom family home, just a one-bedroom home, how big is the foundation you need for that? Nothing. You don't actually need a foundation. You actually can just put a box on top of the ground. Maybe you might need a few sticks in the ground, a few poles to sit it on top of, to make it level, to make sure there's no water going to get into it. But other than that, it's almost nothing. There's almost no foundation required. Well, it's the same with a business. If you're building a big business, if you're wanting to build a big business, what you need is a fantastic foundation. Now, you wouldn't know that you need that foundation unless you know that what you're building is a big business. So your vision needs to be right. You need to start with knowing where you're going. As Zig Ziglar said, if you aim at nothing, you hit it every time. In other words, if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So if you don't have a vision that says, I'm going to 100 stories high, then you don't know what sort of foundation you need to build when you start building that business. So most of us start with wanting to just simply replace our current income. We're wanting to just simply replace our salary. So what ends up happening is we build a foundation for a one-bedroom family home, just a one-bedroom shack. And that becomes our foundation for our business. Now, if you want to try and build your 100-story building on top of that foundation, what's going to happen? It's going to fall over. The first earthquake, the first shake of the ground, the first strong wind is going to push it over. So the reality is, when you start building your business on the basis of a job, on the basis of simply getting enough money to replace your current job, what you end up doing is you build the wrong foundations. Now you come to somebody like me, a business coach, and you say, hey, take me higher. Help me to build this business higher than where it currently is. Well, my first reaction is I want to tear the building down. I want to start by going down, by going backwards before we start going forwards, because you haven't got the right foundation. Your foundations are all wrong. And that's why so often you'll see me in these videos and comments and texts and stuff. When people ask me questions, I'll say, your foundations are wrong. That's where you're going wrong. It's got nothing to do with your plans or your ideas or what you're doing. In actual fact, in reality, the problem is your foundations were built wrong to begin with. And because your foundations were built wrong to begin with, it's almost impossible to build on top of those shaky foundations to get where you need to go. And your building starts to fall over. So what ends up happening is we start with a one-bedroom shack. We want to build a bigger building once we've replaced our income. We want to start bringing staff on. We want to start bringing more clients on board. Your foundations are wrong, so it all falls over. 3 to 5 years later, you end up with a failed business. Now, usually you come to me and say, fix my failed business, and you're just wanting me to build a 100-story building on top of a one-bedroom building's foundation. It's never going to work. So the reality is, what I end up doing is I end up building a ditch around the business that you've currently got, going down, and then building around your current business, going up. And then when we've replaced your current business, we dig down below your current business, in order to destroy the old business, and then build a foundation where that used to exist and then go beyond there. In other words, what we do is we try and replace your current business with a new business along the process, but we start by getting the foundations right, and then we slowly transition from your old business to your new business in a process called change management. And change management is that process of changing from where you're at to where you need to go, and that means destroying your current foundations to build your new foundations. So what I encourage you to do So I encourage you to go and get the book Magic Beans, The Untold Story. Just Google it, Magic Beans book or Magic Beans, The Untold Story. Go to magicbeans.nz and pick up a copy for yourself, or go to Amazon. Either way, grab a copy for yourself, read that, then sign up to the Magic Beans course. It's a one-on-one video course, and we will help you through that process of actually building the right foundations and understanding what those foundations even need to be in the first place. Do all the engineering work, if you like. We do all that engineering work with you. We help you to build those right foundations, and then moving forward, you have foundations on which you can build any size of business. Doesn't mean you have to build a global company, but without that right understanding, the understanding that comes from building a global company, then you don't ever build the right foundations for a strongly growing business. Because if a business is not growing, it's dying. That's the reality. If a business is not growing, it's dying. So the reality is you end up building a business which eventually will die because you don't have the right foundations. You don't have enough of a foundation in your business to build the type of business that needs to keep on growing generationally. And you end up finding yourself at a loss. And often people, by the time they've run 20, 25 years into the business, they have no exit strategy. They find themselves, committing urban child abuse by trying to pass the business on to their children. Their children don't want to take on a failed business that you've already failed in, essentially. 25 years of building a failure. I'm not joking. I'm not saying that you're a failure. I'm not saying that your business hasn't been successful and supported your family for 25 years, but I'm saying it doesn't have the right foundations for taking the family forward for the next generation. And they don't want to have to try and destroy what you've already built to build what they need to build for going forward. And they already recognize that. So what you find yourself doing is you find yourself with a failed business. It's not failed in terms of providing you an income for 25 years. I'm saying it's failed because it doesn't have the right foundations. So we try and help you to build those exit strategies, build those right foundations, and help you with your thinking going forward so that you end up with something that can build for generations. So come and talk to us, even if you just inquire. I'm happy to answer questions. Comment on this video, comment below, and then what I'll do is I will reply to those comments. I reply to every comment, or I try to, and I will reply, and I'll try and help you as best I can with these videos to try and answer some of your questions. Go and read the book. Sign up to one of the courses. It's cheap. It's honestly, you think of an advertising campaign, it's less expensive than a typical minimum advertising campaign. It'll do more for you because it'll actually give you the engineering and the techniques you need for building that foundation. We work with you to build that foundation. And then you build that foundation. From there, you can build any size of business. So with your New Year's resolution, start by building foundations. So start with foundational thinking. So that's your task from between now and New Year's, is get hold of the book, read it. It's entertaining. It's written in a fantasy fiction style of novel. It's not written as a standard boring business book. So it's entertaining to read over this New Year season. When you're sitting out in the sun, or you're sitting in the rain or in the snow, wherever you're sitting in the world, read the book. It's entertaining. It'll entertain you during this season when you're taking time out with your family. And in that way, then you can learn what you need in terms of foundations, and come and see us, sign up to a course. We can take you through that process of building your foundations so that this year going forward, 2023, and going forward into the next decade, you're actually going to have the right foundations for your business, an exit strategy, a proper growth strategy, a proper marketing, a proper financial foundation and base, so that you can actually move your business forward to any size of business. Easy.